Hello and welcome to Snyk's ASPM Masterclass Series. This is a six-part masterclass on application security posture management. So over the course of the next 6 weeks, you're going to hear from six different subject matter experts at Snyk who will provide you with the knowledge and tools to manage a risk-based AppSec program using the principles of ASPM. Chapter 1 today is an intro to ASPM, where you'll learn about building better AppSec programs with ASPM. So today's webinar and the whole series is sponsored by Snyk and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is Scott Becker. I'm from Actual Tech, and I'm excited to be your moderator for this series. Now, before we get to today's great session, we have 4 housekeeping items that will help you get the most out of each class. First off, we want this to be an informative event for you, so we encourage any questions in the questions box in your webinar control panel. Not only will we have team members responding to questions during the live event, but we'll also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the presentation where we'll discuss in greater detail some of the top questions that you ask. The Q&A panel is also the place to let us know about any technical issues that you might be experiencing. A browser refresh will fix most audio, video, or slide advancement issues, but if that doesn't work, just let us know in the Q&A and we'll provide further technical assistance. Now, second, in the handout section of your webinar control panel, you'll find that we have several resources. I'd especially like to call your attention to a link to read Chapter 1 of the ASPM playbook. There's also a download for evaluating your AppSec landscape before ASPM implementation. And of course, we have a link to join Chapter 2 of this series next Tuesday. So by registering for this one, you should be registered for all 6 events, but please feel free to share the link with colleagues who would benefit from the series. So I encourage you to access those resources now and share them with your friends and colleagues. Now, third, at the end of this of each class, actually, we'll be awarding a $250 Amazon gift card to a lucky registrant. Of course, you must be in attendance during the live event to qualify for the prize. Official terms and conditions of that prize drawing can be found in the handout section as well. Just scroll to the bottom and you'll find the prize terms and conditions link there. Now, finally, one of the best benefits of this event is the opportunity to ask a question of our expert presenters. So to help encourage your questions, we have a special additional prize for you. That's another Amazon gift card, this one for $50 for the best question. So after the event is over, we'll look at all the questions that came in, pick out the very best one, and contact that prize winner. Okay, with all that housekeeping out of the way, let's get to today's fantastic session. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to our presenter today. We have Snyk Masterclass, who's Senior Security Advocate for Developer Relations at Snyk. So Snyk, welcome.
Hey, hi everyone. Thank you for having me today.
And it looks like I failed to introduce one of our presenters here. There's somebody hanging onto your shirt there.
Yeah, we do have Patch with us today as well. He's always here with me.
All right, excellent. Well, I'll turn it over to you guys.
Cool. Thank you, Scott. Cool. So, welcome everyone. Welcome to the first chapter of this masterclass on ASPM fundamentals, unlocking application security excellence. And today we are going to go through the first chapter, which is managing and scaling an application security program with ASPM. So I'm Snyk. I'll be your host for this chapter. I'm a senior security advocate at Snyk. I'm passionate about DevSecOps, AI, and cybersecurity. I do a few things outside of Snyk, but this is not the topic for today. So if you want, you can link up with me on LinkedIn at Snyk Masterclass. Cool. So let's start about the dynamic world of application security, where we constantly face new challenges and complexity. So with cyber threats becoming more sophisticated, they're targeting vulnerabilities in applications like never before. So as our systems become more interconnected, especially with the widespread adoption of cloud securities, the potential attack surfaces also expand. And this will increase the risks as well. So this means for organizations, they need to stay up on top of the latest threats to effectively strengthen their defenses. So in today's digital age, businesses heavily depend on software solutions. That's why it is crucial to recognize the critical connection between solid application security practices and successful software development. because after all, this is the synergy that paves the way for sustainable innovation. So today we do have a packed agenda. We're going to have a look at a few things. But first, I wanted to introduce what is the modern application security landscape and a couple of challenges that you might be facing in your day-to-day job or within your application security program. Then we'll move on to 5 strategic security checkpoints to see before implementing ASPM. Then, because we're talking about ASPM, we're going to define what is ASPM, and we're going to have a look at why is it called the workbench for application security empowerment. We'll then look at how to scale and manage and a few challenges when you're doing so with ASPM and how we can overcome this. And we're going to finish with a use case and examples for organization that might have large portfolios of software and how ASPM can actually solve some of the challenges and problems that are arising. So first, let's start with the modern application security landscape. So let's first define the concept of the shift left approach in security. So shift left approach means integrating security practices earlier into the software development lifecycle, the SDLC. So traditionally, security measures were typically added later in the development process at a separate phase after the application was already developed. But with the shift left approach, this is advocating for incorporating security consideration and practices from the early stages of development, such as during the design or coding phases. So this shift left methodology has significantly changed the landscape of application security by moving security practices earlier in the development lifecycle. But with this transformation, application security teams face a unique set of challenges now. So let's see a couple of them. So the first one is around siloed challenges and risk prioritization. But with the adoption of various security tools throughout the development lifecycle, there is a fragmented data and siloed security issues. Application security teams now face the difficult task of distinguishing genuine risks among numerous vulnerabilities. And this fragmented approach makes it tough, actually, to prioritize effectively, leaving the security teams with questions like, where does the actual risk is? What should we prioritize? Or what can we safely overlook? And these struggles reflect the challenge of making sense of a vast amount of security data. Then we have also as a challenge ensuring complete coverage. So the proliferation of tools also brings the challenge of ensuring comprehensive coverage. So application security teams will find themselves questioning potential blind spots, the tools in use, and precisely what is being secured. So the absence of a unified view of the entire application landscape creates uncertainty. For example, the question would be, where are the gaps? What tools are we using? What exactly are we securing? And this is to ensure complete coverage. And this is becoming a pressing concern in this dynamic and diverse application security environment. And the last challenge that we're facing is also around clarity and guardrails. So while advocating for pushing security earlier into the development lifecycle, the shift left approach often lacks clear guardrails. So application security teams will struggle with frustration, wondering why specific issues need addressing and what the overall security posture is. So a lack of clarity in objectives and outcomes will often raise questions such as, why are we fixing this issue? What's our security posture? Also, are we making progress? So the absence of a guiding framework adds to the application security team's challenge in implementing effective security measures. So now that we've seen 3 of the main challenges that we're facing in the modern application security landscape, let's have a look at how we could evaluate our application security program before implementing ASPM. So let's dive in the process of setting up an effective ASPM program. It's essential to approach this with careful planning and assessment before jumping into new tools and processes. And we're doing this for every security tools. Usually when we implement that, it's important to thoroughly evaluate your application landscape. And this includes considering factors such as inventory, compliance requirements, risk profiles, vulnerabilities, and existing security control. So let's dive into those 5 critical areas to consider before implementing ASPM. The first one is inventory of applications and database. You can't protect what you're not aware of. So start by creating a detailed inventory of all your applications and database. This should include information like the technology used, the type of data that you're managing, but also most importantly, who owns the accounts. Establishing this inventory will lay the groundwork for understanding your application landscape and potentially pinpointing potential security blind spots. So while it may seem straightforward, we know that many organizations might struggle with visibility into their application landscape, and particularly as they embrace new technologies and expand their digital presence. The second one is to identify compliance requirements. And this is to determine the legal, regulatory, and contractual compliance obligations, which are relevant to your applications and data. So make sure to prioritize securing applications that would handle sensitive data. So this could include personally identifiable information, PI, healthcare records, financial data, all of those sensitive data. And ensure that compliance is not only reducing legal risk, but also builds trust with stakeholders, but also with your customers. The third one is to assess risk profiles. So this is to classify your applications and database into different risk tiers based on factors like data sensitivity and business criticality. So the application with higher risk profiles will require more robust security measures and closer scrutiny. And tailoring those security efforts according to risk profiles will ensure that all the resources that you have are allocated efficiently and effectively. The fourth point is analyzing your current vulnerabilities, and this is by conducting thorough assessments to identify any existing vulnerabilities. So you can use techniques such as application penetration testing, static or dynamic analysis, database vulnerability assessments as well. And you should prioritize remediation efforts based on the severity and potential impact of identified weaknesses. And lastly, evaluate your existing security controls. So you should assess the effectiveness of your current security controls. You should review tools like the static application security testing, your SAS tools, dynamic application security testing, your DES tool, or maybe your web application firewalls, your WAF. There's a lot of acronyms and jargons that we do like in security. But identify any gaps in coverage and opportunities for improvement, just to ensure that your security infrastructures remain strong and up to date. So now we're going to have a look at the AppSec health check and make sure how we could potentially map out our current security position. So before diving into the implementation of ASPM, and we're going to define ASPM, so don't worry, it's important to conduct a thorough assessment of your existing security processes. And we've seen this with the previous slides in a more granular level, but this involves gaining insights to current practices. This involves identifying both your strengths and weaknesses and assessing how the platform can fit into the organization's broader security objectives. So it is essential to involve your security team and the relevant stakeholders in this analysis to ensure that you have a comprehensive understanding. And this assessment will actually help pinpoint areas where ASPM can complement existing security measures that you already have in place within the organization, and to also ensure a seamless integration that aligns with the organization's security strategy. So you need to ensure that the implementation of ASPM is in line with the organization goals and objectives. This is really important. Clearly define how the platform will contribute to your overarching security strategies and specify the desired outcome. So you can establish your roadmap to help you on that, and this will potentially outline how ASPM will align with your organization's security objectives. And this alignment will ensure that the implementation is purpose-driven. It's always important to explain the why. Why are you implementing this tool within your application security program? And also this will contribute to the overall success of your security program. Also make sure to promote collaboration and communication among all stakeholders that are involved in this implementation. And this will foster an open dialogue to address if there's any concerns or also if you want to gather inputs. Make sure to organize cross-functional workshops, meetings, and training sessions to facilitate the team communication as well. It's important to establish those channels for ongoing communication to address any questions and to ensure that there is a collective understanding of the ASPM rules in the application security program. Make sure also to develop a comprehensive training program, and this goes back to the president point of just talking about to familiarize the teams with the ASPM tools, the methodology, and the best practices. So we've seen that is really important to explain the why you are actually implementing the tool, but also the how. What is this? What can you do? Can you leverage the features of the ASPM? So it's always good to have that comprehensive training program as well. Empower the users to leverage ASPM to enhance the security of their applications by providing tailored training sessions. You can offer hands-on training sessions as well, like workshops, and also make sure that you have thorough documentation to educate security team members and the developers, so the users that are actually going to use this tool, this platform, on the ASPM features and functionalities, just to have a better understanding what that tool or platform can actually add to your application security program. Then the usual when we are implementing security tools is always to implement regular audits and assessments to identify and rectify if there's any gaps in the ASPM implementation. That could happen when you're doing the implementation. So having continuous monitoring to ensure that ASPM remains effective in addressing evolving threats. You can establish a schedule for regular audits and assessment of the ASPM tools and processes. And by conducting those periodic reviews, just to identify if there's any areas for improvement and also addressing emerging security challenges, if any. And finally, and this one is the most important, if you want to have a successful implementation, adopt a phased implementation approach to integrate ASPM iteratively. This is to minimize disruptions and facilitate a smoother transition for teams. So start with a pilot phase. You would select a subset of application or a team to implement ASPM. It's always good to target teams who might potentially already have security champions or part of security guilds. So they're really interested in security and they might be more keen to test a new security tool or platform. Gather the feedback, make necessary adjustments, and you can gradually expand the implementation across your organization. So this phased approach will promote a more manageable and adaptable integration process. Cool. So now we have defined a few application security challenges. We've seen also 5 security checkpoints before the implementation of ASPM. And now we're going to see what is ASPM, because we've been talking about ASPM. What is it? So let's first define what is ASPM. So ASPM stands for Application Security Posture Management. And this is an application security approach that leverages holistic visibility into the application environment, automation, and comprehensive security measures to implement measures and improve your overall application security program. And it introduces the concept of a asset-first approach, and that allows organizations to prioritize their most critical assets. So that could be repositories, your teams, your endpoints, your web server, etc. And this would be based on business importance, regardless of the security tooling data that you're using. So this enables application security teams to allocate limited resources effectively and focus on vulnerabilities that have significant business impact rather than getting overwhelmed with a backlog. So ASPM typically involves collaboration between development, operation, and security teams. And if this might be familiar with you, you're right, you guessed it right. This is the DevSecOps methodology and manifesto to have that collaboration and communication. And we'll come back to that point because this is really important also to have a successful implementation. So let's see the ASPM key pillars. And here, what you're seeing on the screen, those 5 pillars or principles, actually, we're going to go through each of them with the different webinars, the upcoming one after my session, so from next week and the others. So we're going to cover on visibility and coverage. This is to better understand, gain a complete understanding of assets and control in your application environment from source code to cloud. We're going to have one around controlling the next 0-day. This is more around incident response and the playbooks that you might have within that topic. So before a 0-day hits, you might need to identify and understand the application that might deserve an all hands on response. We'll have also one dedicated to risk-based prioritization, and this is to focus the efforts based on risk that might be posed a greater risk to your businesses. We'll have one on how you make sure to measure success in a sense, so measure, improve, and report upon the performance of your application security program. And lastly, and this is an important one, people and culture, just to make sure that the implementation is successful around those topics. Now, let's say, given the application security challenges that we've seen at the beginning of this session, ASPM emerges as a crucial cybersecurity framework, which is aimed at continuously evaluating and supporting the security posture of application throughout the entire lifecycle. So it serves as an important tool in addressing the silos, the coverage gaps, and the frustration often encountered with the shift left approach. So there are three things that we need to keep in mind when we're talking about ASPM. The first one is unified visibility. ASPM will serve as a central hub. It will offer a unified view of the organization's application security posture. So when you are consolidating data from various tools and different stages of your pipeline, it will eliminate silos. It will provide you clarity for application security teams to navigate through security issues more effectively. So unified visibility, the first one. The second one is comprehensive coverage. With ASPM, application security teams can ensure comprehensive coverage, which means that the platform can help identify potential gaps in security measures. This will guide your teams to understand where improvements are needed and fortifying defenses against emerging threats. So comprehensive coverage, that's the second one. And the third one is strategic decision making. And we can see it here with this slide with the risk-based prioritization and how to measure success. ASPM empowers application security teams to make strategic decisions because it is providing insights into real risks, and the platform enables optimal prioritization, allowing teams to focus on critical areas and allocate resources more efficiently. And this is because we're talking about risk-based prioritization. So all of this also help creating clear security guardrails. So ASPM will establish clear guardrails for application security teams because they will offer a framework for addressing security issues. And this clarity is important in understanding why specific issues need attention. This to define the organization's security posture and to evaluate the success of security efforts. So now let's see also one important point for ASPM automation. So if you're familiar with DevSecOps, with CI/CD pipeline, automating, this is quite a strong idea. So connecting the threads, let's see this. So automation plays an important role in enabling the seamless monitoring and assessment of application security throughout all the stages of software development. So if we're talking in the context of ASPM, automation is deeply implanted. This is leveraging various scanning tools that you might have within your pipeline, and we're talking about security tools in a sense, and utilities to increase capabilities and support a strong application security program. And this integration and automation will offer different key benefits. So let's have a look. We do have a few here. So the first one is the real-time scanning and early detection. So through automated code scans, which are configured with the different tools that you might have. So let's say if you have a static application security testing tool, SAS tool, or this is to scan your first-party code that you actually write within your organization, or a software composition analysis tool, SEA. So this is to go through all of the manifest file, the dependencies that you might be using, depending on the ecosystem and programming languages that you're using. We have a continuous analysis of the source code, the dependencies, and the configurations. And these integrations will provide a comprehensive coverage across all your code repositories and pipelines, because they will be running scans in the background during development, and this will enable instant feedback and help you identify issues in real time before they propagate downstream. And we know that it's better to fix it as soon as possible because it might be costly if you discover it further down the line. So this will facilitate early detection and remediation. And continuous automated scanning decreases the need for periodic audits as well. This is to ensure complete coverage. So that's the first point. We also have proactive policy enforcement, and this is around the integration with configuration enforcement tools that will automate the application of security policies and configuration consistently across all the environments that you might have within your organization at scale. So this is to impose guardrails aligned with your organization compliance requirements to reduce the reliance on error-prone manual reviews. So we can talk about policy as code instrumentation that would offer a preventive approach to blocking high-risk changes before deployment into production. Then we have swift response and remediation. So alerting tools that are integrated with ASPM automation will promptly notify security teams of policy violations or any vulnerabilities. And this is better known as orchestration. And we can talk also about chat ops. So if you have tools that are linked to your messaging app, if you're using Slack or Teams, for example, you can have that alerting workflow. So that orchestration capabilities will automate potential response to limit the impact with incidents when they happen. You can also have integration with ticketing systems. So if you're using, for example, Jira, this would streamline the remediation workflows, automatically creating and assigning tasks to the development teams. And this will also link to the ownership piece. And this significantly reduce resolution time, could potentially shrink it from days to minutes in a coordinated manner. But obviously, this is the happy path when you have all of those linked and plugged in with your alerting system and ticketing system. Adaptability to change. So as development velocity accelerates, and this is even true these days with AI-powered tools, with the sheer amounts of code that you can generate with products like Copilot, ChatGPT, Gemini, and others, you need to have automated scanning. And this is facilitated by tool integration. You also need to adjust assessment just to keep pace with changes in codes and configuration, and also the amount, the volume of code that is created if you're using AI-powered tools. So integrations within your CI/CD systems will allow scans to run on every commit or pipeline execution. And you can have this at different stages. You can have it through your IDE. You can have it when you push code and raise a pull request. You might have to check at the end of your pull request. Let's say if you're using GitHub, you might have one additional step to give you that visibility. Or depending on when you actually put those endpoints, just those guardrails, make sure that you have that coverage. So ensuring that findings reflect the current states rather than becoming outdated between scans. So findings are mapped to owners to focus remediation efforts efficiently, and you have that through the ASPM. And lastly, accelerating DevSecOps, because we're also talking about DevSecOps. So deep integration with continuous integration and continuous delivery. So the CI/CD processes, we shift the security left. We're embedding it into development cycles rather than solely monitoring production. We have alerts that are delivered within existing workflows used by developers daily. So we don't want to recreate other workflows in parallel that they're not going to use. We want to foster shared responsibility between security and development teams. This is really important, especially in the context of DevSecOps. And breaking down silos. We want to have that constant feedback between both teams. And most importantly, security becomes an enabler of velocity rather than a hindrance. And this is really important because at the end of the day, we're all working on the same product and we don't want security to become a blocker. Security should become an enabler. So automation and integration between ASPM and the different security tools are very important in strengthening the application security in a scalable and unobtrusive manner across the entire development lifecycle. And this connectivity and information flow will bridge activities from code commit to production deployment. And this will ensure a cohesive and proactive approach to application security. So now that we've seen the definition of ASPM and a little bit of automation, we'll see how to tackle the challenges that you can face when you are managing or scaling application security in the context of ASPM. So let's have a look at some of the ASPM realities. We know that as organizations rapidly expand their application portfolios, and we'll come back to that specific example when you might have a large portfolio of softwares, but let's see before the ASPM realities. So application security programs will encounter increasingly daunting challenges in maintaining security coverage and keeping pace with this growth. So ASPM can help because it might offer a scalable framework to address those challenges effectively. So let's see some of them. The first one might be around integration challenges. So one significant challenge which lies in integrating ASPM into your existing security protocols and workflows that you already have within your organization, often met with resistance to change for some reason. So aligning ASPM with established processes might require effective communication and collaboration among the different stakeholders. And let's go back to what I mentioned previously. It's always important to have that collaboration and communication piece, just to make sure that everyone really understand the why. Why are we implementing this tool? So demonstrating the benefits of ASPM in enhancing security and streamlining the processes is important to overcome resistance. And having comprehensive training and support during the implementation will facilitate a smoother transition, because this will ensure ASPM to become an integral part of it and an accepted component of the organization security infrastructure. The second one is the volume of vulnerabilities, and this comes back also what I mentioned when I was talking about AI-powered tools. With the sheer amount of volume of code that is nowadays produced, also will increase the volume of vulnerabilities. So companies need to keep up with that. So the sheer number of applications poses challenges in manually identifying and prioritizing vulnerabilities. So automated ASPM will streamline this process by analyzing code, dependencies, and configurations. This will help accelerating vulnerability identification and prioritize based on risk. So risk-based issues for prompt resolution. And this will help if you want to focus on specific categories of vulnerabilities. You can do this through policies and through risk-based prioritization. Alignment with existing security protocols. So integrating ASPM may face resistance from teams because they might be accustomed to traditional security practices. So emphasizing that ASPM can be complementary with existing protocols and addressing those concerns through active engagement with the security teams, this is important for successful alignment within the security framework. So it's important to understand that ASPM is not going to replace all of your security practices. This is coming in complements with those. Standardizing security practices across diverse applications. So here, this is more around scaling ASPM across diverse applications with unique characteristics that would require standardizing security practices. And if we have flexible security practices that are adaptable to different applications types, this is essential because ASPM configuration should accommodate variation in technologies and deployment environments. And we're going to talk more about this in details in the example, the use case. And also having guidelines for application security practices that should be developed to ensure that you have consistency across your whole software portfolio. Also make sure that you have scalability across diverse development environments. So this refers to a seamless integration of the ASPM platform across diverse tech stack, and it might be challenging. So selecting an ASPM that is compatible with a wide range of programming languages and framework, this is really important. And a well-documented integration efforts also, and prioritizing tools offering flexibility and adaptability to facilitate the integration across these diverse development environments. Again, back to this education and awareness piece, user training and adoption. To have a successful adoption of ASPM and to have on practical user training and stakeholder education, this is really important. So having a comprehensive training programs that should be provided. You should prioritize education on the ASPM capabilities, the features, the benefits for the developer, for the security teams, and other stakeholders. You need to explain why and showcase what you can actually do and leverage with ASPM. So ongoing support enhance user proficiency and will contribute to a successful adoption. And this is if you have some resistance from teams or even from your security team. And lastly, continuous monitoring across the SDLC. This goes back also to the DevSecOps points. But this is more to scale the application security programs that will necessitate continuous monitoring. So again, and you might be doing this also with all the different security tools that you have within your pipeline. Usually, traditional periodic assessment may not offer real-time insights. ASPM will offer you this real-time monitoring capabilities integrated across development, deployment, and even beyond, providing up-to-date information on your application security posture just throughout the whole software development lifecycle. Cool. And lastly, I would like to take some time on the use case that you might probably are facing if you have a large portfolio of softwares, and how leveraging ASPM can also help you on some of the challenges that you have. So managing application security across, let's say, expensive and diverse technology landscapes will pose complex challenges. We know that, and it will necessitate thoughtful integration strategies for ASPM. So let's see some of them. The first one, adapting security tools to diverse tech stack. So if we consider the scenario where we have an organization that manage a range of applications, so each are developed with different languages, frameworks, and architecture. This could be true if you're using, for example, a microservices architecture. So securing this diverse landscape will present a significant challenge, right? So here's how ASPM can address this complexity. Imagine a company with a varied application portfolio. So this would include web application written in Java, let's say Python, Ruby on Rails. You might also have mobile application with iOS, so Swift, and Android platform, so Kotlin. So you need to ensure the security of all this diverse tech stack, and this is important. So to tackle this challenge, the company decided to implement ASPM. Why? Because ASPM will provide a robust support for scanning the applications through their security tools written in various programming languages. And this would offer comprehensive coverage across the different applications type. Whether it's in Java, in Python, Ruby on Rails, or the other programming languages, ASPM has the capability to scan them all through security tools because they aggregate the results. And then you will have this this overview of all of the potentially of the applications and potentially vulnerabilities. The second one is around centralized security management and visibility. So this time, let's say you're overseeing a multinational corporation with a diverse portfolio of web applications, mobile apps, backend systems. They are scattered across different departments and regions. So it's a complex landscape to navigate with potential blind spots and gaps in security coverage due to decentralized security data. And we're used to that when we have that kind of challenges. So to tackle this challenge, we decided as an organization to turn to ASPM, because ASPM will act as a centralized hub for security management and visibility. This will offer you consolidated dashboards that will provide a unified view of the entire application portfolio. And this centralized approach will allow your security team to access critical information about security vulnerabilities, about incidents, and also compliance through the policies that you might set. And this is from one platform. You don't need to go on all of your security tools. You have everything aggregated in at one place. So you can think about as the ASPM leverages a centralized data lake to aggregate security telemetry from various sources, so all of your security tools. And by consolidating this data, this will enable your security team to conduct comprehensive analysis, to potentially identify trends across application. And this could also, while you're remediating and fixing those vulnerabilities, that could also drive an education piece. For example, if you want to educate the developers, if you think that you have some specific trends, potentially one vulnerability is more prominent than another, then you can target education around those. So you can also do this through ASPM. Then we have automated policy enforcement and compliance. So let's see this one with the challenges of maintaining compliance across a diverse portfolio of application. And we can use the example of a multinational financial services company. So that company is operating in multiple countries. Each of it has their own stringent regulations governing data privacy and security. And its application portfolio include a range of systems handling sensitive financial data, as you might imagine. That could be banking apps, investment platforms, customer relationship management systems, and others. So to navigate this complex regulatory landscape, the company decided to implement ASPM. So ASPM provides them automated policy enforcement and compliance management, which will be tailored to the specific requirements of each application. So the bank, for example, the banking app should adhere to strict, let's say, regulations across various jurisdictions. So ASPM will automate the enforcement of policy, and obviously the security team will need to set up all through tagging, through creating policies around the application, around the crown jewels, and others that they will define depending on the classification of the data and the severity of the classification of data. And this is to ensure continuous compliance with evolving regulatory standards, or even as regulations change over time. Then we have deep integration with DevOps pipeline. So this time we're talking about DevOps pipeline. We can use the example of a software development company that is embracing agile methodologies and DevOps practices. So this company will prioritize the seamless integration of security throughout the development process to ensure that security is not an afterthought, but a core component from start to finish. So to achieve this goal, the company is adopting ASPM because it's offering deep integration with its DevOps pipeline, meaning that it's integrating with tools that are actually using within their CI/CD pipeline, so they don't need to recreate another pipeline. They're actually integrating with the pipeline that the developers are using. And ASPM will embed security checks into every stage of the development lifecycle, so from code commit to deployment. And this goes back to what I was saying through the IDE up to the pull request, maybe through the CI/CD pipeline, depending on the entry points where you want to set those guardrails. So, for example, let's say during the code commit stage, ASPM will automatically scan the code repo for security vulnerabilities using static code analysis, and they will identify issues that are flagged to developers within their IDE. If you do have a plugin integration, that will give you that visibility, and this will enable them to address the concerns before committing the code. And you can do so also throughout the build and test stages, where ASPM will continue to enforce those security policies by scanning potentially artifacts and the codes. And if there's any detected security issues, then it will be communicated back to developers for remediation. And this also goes back to if you have implemented chat ops, for example, or if you link to your ticketing system, or alerting if you already have this set. And lastly, continuous assessment and monitoring. So for this one, let's consider a healthcare organization, and it's tasked with managing extensive patient records and highly sensitive medical information within its digital system. So given the critical nature of this data, just to ensure the security of this system is really critical to safeguard patient privacy and adhere to healthcare regulations, as you might imagine. So to fortify their security posture, they decided to adopt ASPM because this will offer them continuous assessment and monitoring capabilities. Traditionally, that company relied on periodic security audits, which were conducted at intervals to evaluate their security posture of the system. However, this approach had some limitations because it could overlook emerging security issues between assessment, and this could leave the company vulnerable to potential threats. So By implementing ASPM, they'll have into their security strategies, they'll have that continuous assessment piece and monitoring that will become foundational elements of their organization security framework. Cool. And I think we can, I'm done with this, with the presentation and the slide. I'm open to any question and answer. Let me just move on to the next slide as well. Yeah.
Okay, super. Yeah, great introduction to ASPM so far. Really appreciate it. Got some kudos there in the questions too. So thanks for providing those. We do have some questions here. The first one is, could you elaborate on the significance of aligning ASPM implementation with organizational objectives? How can organizations ensure this alignment effectively?
Sure, that's a great question. Thank you. So let's say to align your ASPM with organizational objective, this is really important for several reasons. If we look at, for example, strategic focus. So if you want to align ASPM with your organizational objective, security initiatives will become more strategic and it could directly contribute to the organization overall goals. So it has to align, make sure that your security efforts are not just pursued in isolation, but they are integrated into broader business strategies. This is to maximize the impact and relevance. There's also a point around the resource allocation. So if your organization have limited resources, let's say this could include time, budget, personal. So if you want to align ASPM with organizational objective, this will help prioritize resource allocation just to ensure that your security investments are directed towards initiatives that will provide the most significant value and support strategic priorities. We can also talk about potentially risk management, because this is one big entity for if we're talking about ASPM. And if we're talking about effective ASPM, this requires a risk-based approach to security where resources are allocated based on the level of risk that are posed to the organization. So if you're aligning your security efforts with your organizational objectives, you can better identify and prioritize risks that may impact their ability to achieve their goals in a sense. I would add also the stakeholder buy-in, which is really important. So when you have an ASPM initiative that are aligned with your organizational objective, I think it becomes easier to gain the buy-in and support from the key stakeholders, including the executive leadership, the department heads, and also the development team, security team. So having stakeholders, they will be more likely to support your security initiative. They're directly contributing to just achieving your overall goals and objectives, I'd say.
Okay, excellent. Here's someone who's wondering if you could discuss the benefits of adopting a phased implementation approach for ASPM, and how can organizations determine the optimal sequencing of phases to minimize disruptions and maximize security improvements?
Yeah, this is really a great point. Actually, if you want to have a meaningful, impactful implementation of ASPM. I would say some of the benefits of a phased implementation would be around reducing the complexity. So if you're breaking down ASPM implementation into phases to reduce complexity by focusing on manageable segments of your program, this approach will allow the organization to address specific areas of concern or priority without overwhelming, let's say, the resources or the stakeholders, the security team, the development teams. We also have, by doing so, an iterative improvement. So having a phase implementation will enable this, where organization can learn from each phase and incorporate feedback to refine the subsequent phase, if that makes sense. So this iterative approach will foster continuous improvement and ensure that, as a whole, the ASPM initiative should evolve to meet, if there's any changing security needs or organizational requirements. I would add also the risk mitigation. So if you want to prioritize high risk areas or critical assets in early phases, your organization can effectively mitigate those security risks while laying the groundwork for a broader security enhancements. And you might have incremental progress actually by doing so. This would allow the organization to demonstrate progress, that you're actually delivering value incrementally. And this will help build momentum just to gain the stakeholders buy-in, to gain also support from executive leadership from the different teams. Yeah, so that would be for the benefits of phase implementation. I think there was also talk about determining optimal sequencing of the phases. I would say around that, potentially risk assessment. So this would be to conduct a comprehensive risk assessment just to identify your high priority areas or critical assets. And that goes back from what I was mentioning during the session, those 5 security checkpoints, just to make sure that at that granular level, to prioritize this area for early phases of the implementation, just try to mitigate significant security risks effectively and also as soon as possible. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Excellent. We had a question here. Somebody's wondering about cloud security posture management and whether like Snyk integrates with that. Because this person wants to make sure all our cloud and applications are secure, so comprehensive coverage is important.
Sure. Yeah, because we've been defining around having this whole coverage and this full picture. I would say because we're also covering container and infrastructure as codes. So as long as you're using those 4 products, you will have that visibility through the ASPM. But also this will depend on the connectors because you can also aggregate different sources. So this will depend on different sources that you actually plugged in through your ASPM to have that complete coverage, I would say.
Okay. All right. Excellent. We have another question here about hybrid models and the shift left approach. They're wondering, when you've got things that are cloud and on-prem, what do you prioritize, on-prem or the cloud security? And then they're wondering how does Snyk suit both worlds?
Sure. I would say it depends. Well, if that answer, I know it doesn't answer the question, but
Sure.
I think this would depends on the criticality and where are your crown jewels, if they're on prems or if they are on cloud. So this would depend on your when you're doing the assessment before implementing the SPM, you will have to decide where are your most important and valuable applications, your code base, and from there you can decide if you want to prioritize on-prem or cloud. But with ASPM, this will potentially give you a good understanding of both. And again, this will depend on the source that you actually plugged into to the ASPM to have that general coverage.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Someone's also looking for tips on smoothly adding these automated checks into the development process without causing problems or delays.
Yeah, so this goes back to what I was mentioning around the phase implementation and having people on boards. So you can potentially select a subset of application and a couple of teams just to make sure that you actually implementing with them and show it as a success story. So with them, you will actually train them and showcase why you're actually implementing this tool, what is the impact in their development workflow, if any, where you can actually get the sources. So again, depend if you want to have it through the IDE, directly through the IDE, or through pull requests, or directly through the CI/CD, or through registry. So this will also depend. You'll have those kind of discussions with your development team, your engineering team, and get the feedback, understand this is really important, understanding their workflow. If they do have any pain points, what it means for them to have a backlog of vulnerabilities. So all of these points, those are all good discussions that you should have as a security team with development team, I would say. So it is more around collaboration and communication and explaining why you are implementing the tool, what kind of visibility or feature that could help you leverage having that coverage and better understanding of what you have. So yeah, I would say collaboration and communication is the most important thing. And I think this goes well under the DevSecOps methodology and what we've been talking. So yeah.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Well, Sonia, it looks like we've hit most of the questions. What can people look forward to in the rest of the sessions of this masterclass?
Sure. So if you want to learn more about what I've been discussing today, because we only have an hour, you can go and read the first chapter of the ASPM playbook. So for each session, we're going to produce a different chapter. You can also download the cheat sheets around the 5 security checkpoints before implementing your ASPM. And also, I would say join for the next chapter on February 20th. Which will be around visibility and coverage. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Well, thanks for an excellent masterclass here and for all your insights here in the Q&A. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you all.
All right. And we did have some problems with the handout resources today. I apologize for that. We were hoping to get it sorted by the end of the hour, but I think it's still being worked on. So we'll be sure to have those resources updated, and we'll also include them in next week's session as well. So that chapter 1 information and the other resource. So you'll be able to download those then along with some new resources. So sorry for that difficulty there. Okay, we do have one more piece of business, and that is the $250 Amazon gift card prize drawing. And the winner of the card today is Mark Stolniker from California. So congratulations to Mark. We'll be in touch to get you your card. And with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank Snyk for making this event possible. And thanks as always for attending and for your great questions. We'll see you all next Tuesday for Chapter 2. Take care.